Welcome to Anarchapulco 2023, the best day, of course, Crypto Day.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Right? Of course. The only thing that matters. Anyway, today is more, not so much of an interview style show. We're going to just run through a little bit of laundry here and then have a couple of rants, actually, a couple of speeches. There wasn't enough stage time for everybody, so we're going to get kind of a little bit of extended speech here. Anthony didn't quite make it, or Jason Anthony here didn't quite make it to the later talk, so I want to let him talk now. And then Rafael, of course, is going to just yammer on for God knows how long. So also we have Ridolfo here, who is with Monerotopia. So if you guys don't know about Monerotopia, check that out. That's happening in May in Mexico City. They do talk shows and stuff like that, and they have a really great project that I'll let him tell you about with the coffee. If you've seen the Monero coffee table over there, we'll find out about that. A little bit about my projects. If you don't know, follow ANRV Adventure, or the short title that they give you out on YouTube now. It is ANRV Moto. This is where I'm traveling around Mexico and driving where I'm not supposed to drive and just doing stupid stuff, actually. And my crypto channel is The Crypto Show. I'm not super active on that. I just basically come to these conferences, and if I run up on somebody that's extra special, I'll talk with them. So I don't put a lot of focus into that, but it is still active. And the other projects that I'm working on are pretty cool. We have a workshop Friday. It's called Nomad's Guide to the Galaxy. So if you want to travel around the U.S. and Mexico and want a lot of tips about internet and, is Mexico safe? Sure it is. I mean, I just got through driving through this war zone up here in Sinaloa, but you try to get me to drive through Chicago? Hell no. Yeah, that's not happening. Also, I'm on the marketing team with Hush, and we've got a platform that is similar to Komodo, where we can release asset chains, and I will talk a little bit more about that in my talk later today. I've been fortunate enough to actually launch an asset chain, or we're currently working on launching this chain right now. The testnet is up for Tumen, which is the local Mexican currency. So I'm really proud to be able to use this in a real world situation, by actual users that don't even know what we're building for them. So that for me is really exciting. I did launch the very first asset chain, which is Dragonx. 2 years ago here at Anarchapulco, it started as a joke because there's all these Bitcoin maximalists and Monero maximalists. So to make fun of them, I started this little joke called Monero. And from the, so it's just a total shit coin on a centralized chain. There's nothing private about it. It's just a joke. I give people tokens for making shit memes. So it's a lot of fun. And along the way, I learned a little bit more about privacy, and I decided to launch this privacy coin, which Dragonx is. It was going to actually be named Monero, but it was pointed out to me that I was being the same person. I was insulting Monero by doing that, and that's not something I want to do with crypto, is insult another chain or another community. So I changed the name to Dragonx to give a tribute to the guys that helped me build that. And so please check that out. There's also a meetup tonight at Max's Bar. Come and find me, and you can download the wallet. Go to hush.is/Android. Download the APK. It is not a Google Play app. We don't play nice with Google Play. And I will gladly give you some Hush, and you can start playing with Z2Z messaging. So this is encrypted messaging that you are using shielded addresses from. And so instead of using phone numbers or email addresses, you're using a shielded Z2Z, which you can actually do this on most of the ZK chains. Ours is just extra encrypted, and we're just trying to, basically that's our focus, is the messaging. Let's go ahead and get started with Ridolfo.
Testing. Hey guys, my name's Ridolfo. I'm with Gratuitous. We are a coffee company that's adjacent to Monero. So I do have a booth over there, but we are an online company. The website is gratuitous.org. So right now we have 3 coffee farms. There's one in Antigua, Guatemala, one in Genova, Colombia, and one in Oaxaca, Mexico. We've been using the Guatemala farm for about over a year. We went down there at the beginning of last year and handed out 20 Monero wallets to the farmers that work there. And when you buy our coffee, on the bag there's a QR code that you can tip the farmers. And for about over a year, they've received over $700 in Monero. And so we just added the 2 other farms. I literally just got the beans from Oaxaca, Mexico, like yesterday while I was here. So if you want some freshly roasted coffee, come find me by the booth. I'm also the unofficial representative for Cake Wallet while I'm here. So if you don't have Cake Wallet downloaded, you can come find me. And if you download Cake Wallet, I'll send you $10 in Monero. Oh yeah, and Monerotopia, like Dan was saying, that's in May. We got some core devs, some podcasters. It's gonna be really chill vibes in Mexico City. If you come find me, I can give you a code that can get you a 20% discount to that as well. Thank you.
Well, thanks a lot, Danny, for having us on your show.
Jason Anthony here. Don't hold nothing against him for voting people off the island. Just saying.
Well, that's mostly a rumor. It's a whole other thing with that. But I know. So I also, I wanted to tell you that when I heard of your project Monero, as a Monero guy, I thought that was hilarious. So we didn't take it insulting at all. So, unless, I don't know, are you feeling a little guilty?
A little.
Well, it's all in the past. It's all good. So today, what I wanted to talk a little bit about was what we can expect going forward, because it seems like we probably bottomed. Seems like the markets are kind of, it's been a good opportunity to buy for the last month or so. And we might still have to contend with being at the bottom maybe a year from now, but it does look like crypto is starting to turn around. Now, one of my primary things that I've been doing for the last few years is really researching the market, trying to understand it, and in a lot of ways trying to remove my own personal bias. I actually came from the maximalist community. I was never quite maximalist, but it taught me the value of looking at your own biases and understanding that while ideological investing can be a really good thing, you can make a lot of money doing it, it has certain pitfalls. So you have to be very careful that you're not, a true believer, moon boy fanatic, and that you're always keeping your bearings about you, and you're always trying to be self-critical of the projects that you like and open to other projects that maybe you haven't heard about. So I'm going to say some things today. I know that there's some disagreement with some of my predictions that I'm going to make. Now, we're trying to predict the future, right? So it's like, am I clairvoyant? No. But I do see some very big trends that I think it would help everyone here to know that these trends are coming up. So the big first one to me is DeFi. DeFi round 2. What happened in the last 2 years, 2021, 2020, with these crypto markets is we had round 1 of kind of a testing opportunity for traditional finance to try and explore if they can use this DeFi stuff to integrate a lot of the traditional financial code and structures. A lot of this financial code that we have, the government and banks have, it's actually not super complex code, but it has to be heavily regulated to make sure that it is at least fair for the big corporations that get to play in it. So what we saw with DeFi recently in the past couple years was DEX, so decentralized exchanges where you don't have any counterparty risk. That lives on Ethereum. So right now, probably all know Bitcoin's #1, Ethereum is the #2 coin. And what they did is they basically played finance. They built like a whole infrastructure out on Ethereum, and everyone's like, yeah, it's scamming, it doesn't do anything, and it's just BS or whatever. But the reality is that if you're going to transition a lot of the financial structures onto a distributed platform like Ethereum, you absolutely have to test it out. They had to overload it. They had to see where does it break, where does it not break. And so what we saw was just round 1. All of the craziness that we saw with NFTs and oracles and tokens and equity tokens and DEX and everything, and with layer 2 as well, we're going to see all of that happen again when the next bull market comes around. And that might still be another couple years before we get there, but it does look like we might get there. I know everyone talks about recession all the time, but personally, I don't see it. I think that the Federal Reserve might actually soft land this thing, and we might actually be pretty close to the end of this bear market. Right now has been a good time to be in the market. Hopefully, hopefully some of you guys are hodling some coins out there. So there's quite a lot of things that go into what we can anticipate with DeFi and what we can anticipate with all the different structures happening here. Now, one of the things that I kind of want to present to you is that Ethereum is very likely going to gain parity with Bitcoin's market cap in this next cycle. The reason for that is because financial institutions are finally starting to get these regulations that they've actually been wanting, because it gives them the confidence that they can actually go in there, they can put money into it. They're seeing all the testing, all the research and development and everything that they did last cycle, and they see that it actually works. And it really does make a lot of sense to put this financial infrastructure onto a distributed platform. So Ethereum is, they call it a virtual machine. It's essentially like a computer, but it's a shared computer. It's a distributed computer. So you have processing power that's shared amongst the entire network. You have RAM, you have storage. And most people don't realize this. Ethereum has 20 times more funds in its layer 2 than Bitcoin has on the Lightning Network. So I'm not sure maybe how familiar you all are with Bitcoin Lightning Network in layer 2. Essentially, when you have a cryptocurrency platform, everyone is running all the transactions all the time. It's a shared ledger. It's a shared computing resource. Now, with Ethereum, you can do general code execution. They call it Turing completeness. Anything that you can do on a computer can be done on the Ethereum virtual machine. Bitcoin, on the other hand, is a much more specific code implementation. They have little scripting functions, but they don't have general code execution. What this means is that Ethereum can create these layer 2s where you move a lot of the transactions off-chain, and instead of having them on-chain, what you can do is kind of cryptographic magic where you put kind of a proof on-chain, and then you can do a whole bunch of other stuff on the side with a smaller network of people, and then occasionally you peg back to the chain with a cryptographic proof saying, look, all of these transactions happened, and anyone in that smaller network can still verify it. So kind of nerd stuff. I really love to nerd out on this stuff. But essentially, what we can expect is all of this stuff to happen again. Plus, this time, we're going to see AI. AI is going to become a really big deal. You need to be aware that 99% of the stuff out there is just going to be tokens that want to take your money. There are going to be a couple good projects, and it's really hard to judge this stuff. Personally, I know that I'm not a developer. I'm not a cryptographer. So I have to use other cues. I have to look at other developers. I have to see what they say. You have to really look at red flags, too. That's one reason I like your project so much.
AI is the new, shit monkey or whatever. It's the new NFT.
Yep. It'll be NFT plus AI. It'll probably be AI NFTs. That's one reason I like your project a lot, is because you launched fairly. There's no red flags there. There's nothing that says, hey, I'm trying to take your money. It's all like, there's so few coins that are launched fairly.
With Dragonx, I only recently got my first coins. I'm traveling on a motorcycle, so I couldn't mine, and there is a pre-mine of 10 by accident, so I can't say it's 100%.
My God.
No pre-mine, but that was an accident, and there is no dev tax, so I think it's as fair as possible. We announced 30 days ahead of time on bitcointalk.org to let everybody know, so yeah, I decided that keeping it as absolute fair as possible was necessary.
Yeah, that was really impressive, because there's so few projects that actually do launch 100% fair. So that was really great to see. Awesome. Someone actually asked me yesterday. They said, "Well, if Monero failed, what coin would what would be my next coin?" It would probably be Dragon.
Wow.
Yeah, because again, it's just there's so few coins that were launched fairly. There's some other kind of Monero-related projects as well, but the only thing is that if Monero failed, they would also fail because they're basically code forks of Monero. So far, though, it looks really good. Monero's just crushing it. It does what it's supposed to do. There's some big integrations coming next year that will really expand its abilities. It doesn't try to do any of the scripting, crazy DeFi stuff. It just tries to be digital money. It acts like digital cash. It's easy to use. It default gives you privacy, which is very important. Most people don't realize it, but we keep seeing these incidents over and over and over again in the crypto ecosystem where people don't have privacy and they just totally harm themselves in one way or another, whether it's darknet stuff or whether it's just everyday Canadian trucker protests. They had a hard time cashing any of their crypto because it wasn't private. but the ones that receive Monero, they could easily cash that out to support the cause there. So yeah, we're going to see NFTs, we're going to see AI. Privacy is going to continue to be very important. Fungibility is another aspect of privacy. So you don't have fungibility unless you have privacy. Fungibility just means you can trade any one unit of currency for any other unit of currency. They all look the exact same. So for example, if I traded Danny a $100 bill and he had a $100 bill, it's the same. There's no difference. One of the problems with a lot of these crypto networks, pretty much all of them, is that they're public ledgers, and everyone, especially the government, can see into all those transactions. Now, maybe you've heard data is the new oil. There's the government and the entire corporate infrastructure of our world is constantly trying to get as much data as they can because there's power in there. So for me personally, I want to take away their ability to surveil our monetary system. That's very, very important to me. So that's why I use Monero. I use it transactionally. I hodl it too. I can't lie. I'm a bit of a degenerate crypto speculator gambler as well. But I do use Monero. That's like a very important thing in my mind, is I try to separate when I'm being a degen, making some crazy shitcoin play or whatever, versus when I'm actually trying to support the principles of digital freedom money. These are very important. So privacy is going to continue to be a big deal. We're going to continue to see, I expect your coin is going to go up quite a lot in value. And I
Hope so. It's already on an exchange, so.
Thanks for the coin you sent me, by the way.
What's that?
Thanks for the coin you sent me. Yeah, Danny sent me some coin.
Oh, that was Hush. I sent you Hush to try for the messaging.
Okay.
The GUI wallet is ready for Dragonx, but it's in testing right now.
Nice. So there's a couple more things, if I might continue to rant just a moment longer. I want to talk about stable coins. Most people don't quite understand the ecosystem and how these stable coins operate. So the biggest one is Tether, and that's probably not going anywhere. Tether's probably going to continue on. All the exchanges use it as their primary liquidity mechanism. They're supposed to be tethered, one tether for each dollar, but they're probably only partially backed. It's very funny when you really get into the nuts and bolts of how they work. They look a lot like the Federal Reserve. I think Tether, essentially, they get like some kind of small amount of money they use as reserves, or they will trade like equity interest in different exchange platforms, and they'll use that equity interest as their reserves to print a whole bunch of Tether. We're talking like, I think they're at 60 billion right now. So they're kind of like the side channel underground stable coin. They kind of got a slap on the wrist from the government a couple times, but they're pretty much allowed to continue operating. So I tend to think that they're probably tacitly connected to the deep state, to big insider financial players, because big finance loves crypto. They love the speculative gains. They love the lack of regulation. So Tether's probably going to continue on, even though they kind of operate not so, let's just say, honestly. Now, the other big one that's coming up here is called USDC. So you have BlackRock and Fidelity, and hopefully everyone knows who BlackRock and Fidelity are. They're, I mean, if Monsanto is the quintessential evil corporation, BlackRock competes with them for that #1 spot, basically. So BlackRock and Fidelity own a company called Circle, and Circle issues USDC. Now, at the moment, that USDC is backed with a money market account that's held by BlackRock. BlackRock is trying to get access to the Federal Reserve's overnight reverse repo lending facility, which means that USDC is basically going to be backed directly by Federal Reserve notes if they get approved. So it's kind of like a backdoor CBDC. It's like a quasi-CBDC. I've kind of thought for a while, we're probably not going to see a CBDC in the United States for a long time. Other countries, yes, and it is in development. But it seems like with the banking system, they've been content to allow the private sector to handle most of the banking and only peg that back just a little bit to the central bank, to the Federal Reserve, which is mostly outside of the government scope, but still kind of acts like the government. I mean, I don't have to tell you all about the Federal Reserve. So what they're going to do is they're probably going to end up making kind of backdoor stablecoin, which means that it'll be very reliable. I think you'll be able to trust it. There's a question of, will you have your funds frozen? Just know that when you're playing with the stablecoin, in almost all cases, you're depending on them to meet their counterparty risk. It's not entirely without counterparty risk. But it does seem like this is the direction that the ecosystem is going. They're going to start issuing a lot more USDC, a lot more stablecoins on Ethereum particularly. We're going to see a lot of layer 2 stuff. And at some point in this bull market, Ethereum is going to gain parity with Bitcoin's market cap, which will actually mean that it's kind of already flipped to Bitcoin. I know this can be a controversial topic for some people. I'm not saying what should happen. I'm just saying what my research would indicate is probably going to happen. Now, when that does happen, Ethereum has so much funds locked in their platform. So you've got billions of dollars of USDC locked in their platform. That doesn't technically count with their market cap. So they've got all these ERC20 tokens, billions and billions of total locked value in that system. So by the time that Ethereum gains parity with Bitcoin's market cap, it will already have, for all intents and purposes, flipped Bitcoin. So that's what I think is going to happen here. That's what we're looking at going forward. Again, AI is going to become like the new NFT. Just be aware that most of the stuff out there is probably going to be a scam. Some of the stuff is good. So make sure that you watch the dev level people. Make sure that you watch the social cues when you see those red flags, when people do things that are shady, that are deceptive, dishonest. Those little red flags are really important because since I'm not a cryptographer and I'm not a developer, I have to rely on sort of these secondary mechanisms, which isn't ideal. It's better if I could do the code, audit the code myself, but for lack of anything better, that's how I kind of personally navigate. And I try and rely very heavily on devs that I know I can trust. So I would say, try and find some very developer-level people. Most of them are hermits. They like to be in their hovel, and they love to just code and do math. And so it's hard to find them sometimes, but they are out there. So, yeah, we'll see the AI happen. And
You can find them in their mother's basement.
yeah, that's right. I don't know. They might have got their own basement now. It probably has some gains. So that's all I got for you guys today. I really appreciate you giving me an opportunity.
Awesome, man. Yeah, let's do an interview later, too. And, well, let's just jump right into Rafael. Rafael has a ton to say. I'm sure he's just chomping at the bit. I can see him over here. Goddamn, let me talk.
Hello, 1 2 1 2. No, I'm gonna have an extended amount tonight to talk. So I rather just engage with you guys more up here. And yeah, I would like to check some things in with you that you said. So your overall thesis is that you think Ethereum is going to surpass BTC, and I think that based on perception and propaganda and marketing, knowing that who's really behind Ethereum is JP Morgan, yeah, they literally created Ethereum. So yeah, Ethereum is a deceptive protocol that they will keep leading people towards through marketing as a dead end. So yes, in the world of perception, I agree with you that Ethereum, and you're in good company actually. At the Crypto Vigilante, our analysts, our technical analysts actually have that expectation as well, but not that it will flip BTC, but that we will see Ethereum have a quote-unquote pump. The reality is that, like you said, it's really hard to have a crystal ball and really know what the future will exactly hold, right? And our goal is to be always as objective as possible as analysts, right? So I agree with like your conclusions to your arguments as to what the future trends will be, but I don't agree with your premises. I don't agree with that we will have more growth on second layers, or that we will have any that this, because okay, let me break it down for you guys. The reason why we had a civil war in Bitcoin was because they did not want you guys or anyone to fully embrace what Satoshi gave us. So they did a sleight of hand, and what pisses me off is that they used libertarian rhetoric and good meaning against us. So they told you guys, they told me, they told all of us libertarian anarcho-capitalists that you should really focus on ending the Fed. Yes, yeah, end the Fed, Ron Paul, end the Fed. End the Fed, right, guys? End the Fed, right? Yeah. Yeah, but right there, you just got deceived and you didn't realize it. Because what they did is that they told you to focus on money, right? And right here, like Jason said, I don't know if you caught what he said. He said that, and I'm gonna butcher his quote, but he said more words or less, something that I've been saying for many years, that the future of all financial institutions are tech companies, right? So every bank, over 94% of dollars are digital. So the world of finance is the world of technology, okay? He also said something that's very real that I know you guys know as well. He said that the biggest stream of fountain of wealth in this world now is information itself, right? We live in the information age, okay? So Team Satoshi knew this. And when they created Bitcoin, they did not just create coin, but they also created bit. It is the bit aspect of Bitcoin that they want you to forget about. It is the bit aspect of Bitcoin that they told you was not possible on Bitcoin's original design, and that was a lie, okay? So our friend Jason here explained Turing completeness and the ability to compute on chain, and he stated, well, literally was sold to everyone in crypto, that the place to do that would be in Ethereum, which was designed after the banking model for transactions, which is known as the account-based model, okay? What Satoshi gave us is known as the UTXO model. So he also mentioned that, you mentioned about the script size, right? For Bitcoin, you said it's small, right?
Yeah, Bitcoin doesn't have a general code execution ability. They only have specific scripts that they can run on chain.
Okay, but you know what? Excuse me, honestly and respectfully, I disagree with you, because we're proving that that is not the case, and it never was the case, honestly. That was something that we were all lied to, and we were told not to actually embrace that. So when we had the Bitcoin Civil War, we not only were debating on the size of transactions per se, what we call the block size or the block weight, but we were also, and this is something people don't realize, we were at war for the script size, what you just mentioned. So in BTC Bitcoin, normal transactions and the script size of a BTC, of whatever they can use in BTC, is 64 megabytes. Sometimes, once in a while, it goes up to like 132, once in a while. I'm a renegade. I was completely on the opposite side of the Civil War. I wanted, and my friends wanted, to embrace everything that Satoshi gave us. For us, a number is nothing but a number to be computed. Turing completeness in its traditional definition is the ability to compute an infinite number. Has anyone in existence ever experienced the fullness of an infinite number? No, obviously it's infinite. So, but we can compute numbers on Bitcoin, and Bitcoin is Turing complete. They lied to us. They told us that it wasn't. And that was the biggest lie sold in all of crypto. And what pisses me off again is that they insulted you, my family. And it really breaks my heart. They lied to us. They use our good intentions and our goodwill against us. They use our arguments against us. They told you, and they told me, that their plan for scaling Bitcoin, I'm talking about the small blockers, was one that would lead Bitcoin to be what Monero really is. That will never happen. It's never going to happen. Until this day, a lot of these small blockers that shall remain nameless, because I don't care about them at all. To me, they're very dishonest people. Till this day, they will tell you that Bitcoin is private. And everyone in this community knows that it is not. It's actually pretty, in my opinion, evil that they still think about that they still talk about that, and that they promote that. the people in Bitcoin of the small blocker camp that were logically consistent and honest in 2014 moved on to Monero. That's why Monero is so dear to us at the Crypto Vigilante. And the vast majority of analysts, Mr. A, Mr. W, Mr. X, Mr. Y, Mr. Z, Mr. P, they were dudes that were mostly partial, and even Ed Bugos, mostly partial during the Civil War towards emphasizing the importance of the coin aspect of Bitcoin. So logically speaking, they did fall into the argument of the small blocker, but they were honest and they took it to its logical conclusion. And they understood that in order to be private by default and truly fungible, you needed to be fungible and private at the protocol level, ergo Monero. That's why at the Crypto Vigilante, we emphasize privacy coins so much, because deep down, we understand that we need shields. We need an option to opt out for our safety as human beings, correct? And these are shields. We need these privacy shields, guys, right? So that is something that we champion 100%. Good, awesome. And I agree with them 1,000%. 1,000%. I am with the honest small blocker, like Mr. X, that logical, they literally went to their logical conclusion of Monero. I champion that. I love that. Monero, BTC, in other words, sold the world the ability that they claimed that they were going to be able to turn the Bitcoin protocol into what Monero is. So in reality, to this day, they're still selling Monero, but they're just giving people BTC, and that's really dangerous and deceptive, okay? So we're on the same page here now, right? But then what happened to the other story, the other side of the Civil War, and that I was talking to you guys about? That's my camp of Bitcoiners, big blockers, you know, super big blockers. Guys like me, we work and we engage and we embrace and we work with the fullness of what Satoshi gave us, all of the opcodes. To really understand what Satoshi gave us, you have to look at the code. The white paper, it's just like a constitution of 9 pages, but if you really want to understand what Bitcoin's about, you have to look at the code. So, going back to what you were saying, I think you're right, but I think that that one of the deceptive means of what happened with this whole takeover of what was BTC and Ethereum, which were both dead ends on purpose, was that they wanted you to depend on externalities to the blockchain. Mathematically speaking, there is no better mathematical topological design for interconnecting nodes than a blockchain. It doesn't exist. Nothing better. There's nothing better than a blockchain because it connects you to the entire network in 2 hops. The Lightning Network, you don't know how many hops. It's a failure. Anything external to the blockchain is a deception. They will, in a lot of these liars, they will talk a big game about crypto. Watch what they're doing and ask yourself, are they building on chain? If they're not building on chain, run. Why did FTX happen? Because they were not building on chain. Everything in crypto that puts you in dependency of an externality is something you should run away from. If it's not on chain, not open source, and not interoperable, they're not going to make it. Hyper-Bitcoinization is here. And today I'm going to be talking about that. We actually have a formula, it could be the formula, to hyper-Bitcoinization. Everything has already been built for it. So
that term means things are priced in Bitcoin, basically.
Yes.
What is priced in Bitcoin?
So, hyper-Bitcoinization is when the entire world and everything in existence starts moving on-chain. Where, for example, the Bitcoin blockchain in its original design is an on-chain marketplace. That is the world we're moving to. That is hyper-Bitcoinization. And when it happens, it's going to happen so fast that it's unlike anything we've ever experienced. And we're actually very close. I think that when it happens, it's going to happen within 2 weeks. Literally, honestly, I think that after I give you guys we have the game plan. We already know the formula for hyper-Bitcoinization, at least a formula. Once I give it to you guys, once I put it out, and I've already been giving it out, I give it to Monerotopia. All it takes, guys, we don't need that many developers. All we need is an application, just one viral application that uses this formula on chain. And I mean, honestly, within 24 hours, we can be living in a post-hyper-Bitcoinization world where the entire everything in existence goes on chain. And in my opinion, we're gonna end up in the future, because this is a Highlander competition, right? In the future, we're going to have one privacy chain and one honesty chain. Privacy for your private life, honesty for the public space.
If you're recommending privacy coins, what are some red flags to look out for? Like, you know, as far if you're trying to pick a privacy coin, like wrapping, should we be wrapping them, or what's some of the red flags for privacy projects to look out for so that you don't get caught up in something?
For me personally, fair launch is like the first and easiest one to look at. Was it well advertised? So for example, there are different constructions, cryptographic constructions, which require a trusted setup. So it kind of means getting into the weeds. It's difficult. You're going to have to spend some time learning some stuff. But to me, the first one is, did they launch fair? Was there a pre-mine? Did everyone have an equal opportunity to get access to the coin? Very recently, in 2019, we figured out how to do CPU mining. If you go back and you look at some of Satoshi's original works, he talks about one CPU, one vote. What happened was, because SHA-256 is just kind of a dumb algorithm, you can optimize a piece of hardware to just do that and do nothing else. So it got to the point where you couldn't actually mine for Bitcoin on your laptop. You had to have a GPU. And then a couple years after that, you had to have what's called an ASIC, an application-specific integrated circuit. So one of the red flags to me is that now that we have RandomX, which is the CPU mining algorithm, everybody launching a new coin, in my mind, should either be using RandomX or maybe some kind of proof of stake. But there's a lot of controversy over proof of stake. But generally speaking, you should launch a coin with CPU mining, not with ASIC mining. That's my personal opinion, because you want it so that everybody in the audience can participate in the issuance of new coin. It's not
Should everyone build their own car as well?
Well, I mean, the ideal is as decentralized as you can.
Don't markets specialize?
I mean, ideally, it would be great if we were all 3D printing our own stuff.
So
right?
who's anyone to limit the productive capacity of capitalists?
No, we're not.
If I can do better than you, why can't I?
Well, I mean, if you want to launch a coin with ASICs, that's fine. I personally don't like participating in those projects because I want everybody to be able to turn on their laptop, turn on their desktop, and say, hey, I'm going to mine for this coin, which you can do for Monero, which you can do for Dragon.
Yeah, there's nothing, and you come from the Monero world, and I understand, where you're coming from, and your reading of Satoshi with one CPU, one vote. So when I put on my Monero hat, I agree with you, right? But when I put on my Bitcoiner hat, I don't agree with you, right? What we have to understand, people, is that we're dealing with a new asset class, and these are all new tools that come from mathematics. And so it would be ridiculous for, if we were to discover a tool shed, for Hammer team to be mad at Screwdriver team because screwdrivers don't hammer as well as hammers, right? That'd be ridiculous, right? So, there is a place in the market for what you're talking about. And I think that's Monero, right?
Yeah.
Now, for Bitcoin, in its original design, that what you said doesn't follow, because Otherwise, so where does the word decentralization come from? The word decentralization comes from the PSYOP of the Civil War that we had as well. Okay, it's not on the white paper. The word decentralization is a communist word, very similar to the word equality, egalitarianism, fairness, right? It's just wokeness. It's all it is. True decentralization comes from having a fixed rule set so we can all participate, build on top of, and have fair competition where no one has control of the protocol, the rules of the game. When you look at a cryptocurrency, study to see if that network you're looking at has a group of developers behind it controlling the protocol. Okay? How can something be decentralized if the protocol, the rules of the game, are controlled by central planners? Good question, huh? Right? Isn't that interesting, huh? Isn't that interesting? That the biggest proponents of decentralization are central planners themselves, right? Okay, so Satoshi gave us the real decentralization. How was that? He gave us a meritocracy, a capitalist meritocracy with a fixed protocol, a fixed rule set. That means that the amount of nodes or participants in the market serving any need in this whatever crypto economy at the time is market driven. So what's more important and what we should all talk about over the word decentralization is competition. We need competition first and foremost. If we don't have competition, we have central planners, and the vast majority of cryptocurrencies are ruled by central planning technocrats that take their marching orders straight up from the deep state. And it's been fucking proven. Go to my Twitter. Leaked emails are there that were verified by the guy who Satoshi left in charge, Gavin Andreessen, and the interlocutor of those emails with the Fed agent. And both the interlocutor and the guy that Satoshi left in charge will testify that those leaked emails were real. And in those emails, you will see how everything was paid for. You want to hear something disgusting? This PSYOP was paid for using Ross Ulbricht's stolen money. How fucked up is that? It fucking pisses me off. Do you see it in my face? You think I'm happy? No, I'm fucking pissed. It was fucked up what happened, guys. So we have to learn our history because Satoshi gave us the book that they can never burn. Okay? The book that they can never burn, the ledger that can never be censored. That's what Bitcoin truly is, a truth machine, an honesty ledger. Today I'm going to talk about Bitcoin's computational power and how we are at the cusp of hyper-Bitcoinization at 550.
If I might add one small interjection here about decentralization. It's a buzzword that gets thrown around quite a lot. Decentralization, we don't do it just for the sake of being decentralized. The point is that we need to be able to have censorship resistance. And so if you have 1,000 nodes, 10,000, 100,000 nodes running a ledger, like Monero, for example, if you have all of these nodes across the globe running this ledger, it's going to be very, very difficult to stop that ledger, to turn it off, to censor it, for the government to come attack it. So we don't just do decentralization for the sake of decentralization. We do it because it it gives us censorship resistance. So there's a lot of technical trade-offs that happen when you're trying to decide the design parameters of a network. And a lot of people, especially in Bitcoin, you hear them talk about maximum decentralization. But there's a lot of trade-offs with that, and you kind of lose certain capabilities if you get too decentralized. So my thinking on the matter is you need to be sufficiently decentralized to have censorship resistance, but not so decentralized that you kind of limit your network. For example, Bitcoin has very small blocks. It's very difficult to use that chain when any kind of significant usage tries to happen on Bitcoin. They clog up. It takes a long time to get your transaction. The transaction fees are high. That because they've over-designed, in my mind, to decentralization. And the last thing I'd say is, you asked about red flags. Another red flag that I would look at is code audits. Does the project get code audits and also audits on their math before releasing changes? So I've seen coins, for example, where new development comes out, looks really cool. It's not quite audited yet. They're still kind of doing that stuff, but then they'll integrate it into their platform anyways. That's a red flag to me because that's fairly irresponsible. The stuff is really complex, and sometimes there can be bugs there. So make sure like the stuff that you're looking at, code audits is a big deal, especially on these ERC20 tokens.
So how many car manufacturers exist on the planet?
I don't know, maybe a dozen or so.
Is there a central planner throughout in this world that says that there needs to be a certain amount of car manufacturers in order for us to have decentralization and fairness in the car industry?
Well, I mean, obviously, I'm just giving my opinion on what I think good design parameters for a network are, but certainly I agree with you that we should have competition.
Okay, sure. So it's market-driven, right? And we all have pretty good compatible vehicles in the market, right? Right. So see, true decentralization comes forth from capitalism, guys. So anybody that starts, because this is like, guys, they're very crafty, very savvy, okay? You have to be on your P's and Q's and really like, they're in our home, okay? Crypto belongs to us. This is actually, you guys don't realize this, but this conference and conferences like this is the birthplace of Bitcoin. You guys do understand that, right? You guys understand that Dr. Ron Paul is the grandfather of Bitcoin. You guys understand that, right? Like, he created the fertile mind in people, in the youth's mind with his Levolution, right? So when Bitcoin came, Bitcoin was quickly understood by us, young libertarians. We were home, okay? So they're among us, and they are using our words, our goodwill, what we talk about, and then you have to understand. Look deeper, guys. Don't just expect the history of Bitcoin and crypto to be one of being fully embraced by the world and big tech and Silicon Valley, like with full embrace and love. That is not the real story of crypto. That's not the real story of Bitcoin. I'm sorry. The real story of Bitcoin is one of a Bitcoin that is crucified, that is fucking beat up, that delisted, hated, ran out, talked about, smeared, one that they used Saul Alinsky communist tactics on. That is the real story of Bitcoin. Do you think that Bitcoin was going to be fully embraced by everyone, as most people think the PSYOP is? No, of course not. That's very naive. Bitcoin right now is alive because people, literally, a lot of people gave their life for Bitcoin. Bitcoin right now is alive in its fullness, okay? And everything we ever wanted can be done on-chain. And the future is on-chain, interoperable, and open source.
Well, we're at the end of our time now, so we'll let the next person take the stage. For a real fast answer before we get off stage, does anybody have a question and maybe some lightning answers out of you two guys? Anybody have a question? All right. Okay, go ahead.
I don't think it'll do it this year, but whenever the next bull market takes off, probably 2024, maybe 2025, that's when you'll start to see it gain parity. And it's more about gaining parity than it is about the flippening. The flippening is the meme, but gaining parity kind of invalidates a lot of narratives that we've heard, and really it shows us the picture of what's been happening the past few years, really the past 4 or 5 years. So
awesome. All right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.